Hi, Phil Schoenberg and Jill Stevens for Fastpitch Power. This is our first Q&A session. We've received numerous inquiries from our followers, and we're going to try our best to answer them to the best of our ability and hopefully give you some information that will be very helpful for you in your development as outstanding windmill pitchers.
So we've got about 10 of them today, so we're going to try to get through them as best we can, obviously without trying to make this video too long. And we'll try to do one of these kind of once a month if we can. So the first one is from Chris, and he's actually a Fastpitch Power Plus member. And he asks about his 10-year-old daughter who's been throwing using internal rotation, forearm fire, whip, whatever you'd like to call it, for a while. And she does well in her drills, but in a full pitch, she still seems to get to a position in Power K where instead of being palm up, elbow down, the hand is kind of turned to the side, like this. And his first question was, is that okay, basically? And I would say it depends. So for me, a palm up, elbow down position is really important, and I'll kind of stand up and demonstrate this real quick. Basically what he's saying is instead of being here, I'm assuming, his daughter looks like this. Now that's not a huge deal. I have seen some pitchers do that, college pitchers, but as they continue to pull down, they ultimately get to the palm up, elbow down position, and then they whip through, so that's not a huge deal. When it does become a big deal is if your hand looks like this and your elbow does this, which is also really common. That's the majority of what I see when pitchers' hands are turned to the side like that, is that the elbow is not actually pointed down. It's kind of pointed diagonally back behind them, so that as they go to pull down, they're then stuck behind their body. So I'd have to get some clarification to answer that for you. Like, is the elbow really pointed down when the palm is to the side? Is she getting to a palm up, elbow down position eventually? Because if her elbow's like this, that's not good. And if she's never getting to that palm up, elbow down position, it could be an issue as well.
The elbow down position is critical because without forearm lag, and this is forearm lag, elbow leads to the back of the throw zone, which is right here. Without elbow leading to the back of the throw zone and having that forearm lag, you cannot have that extension and whip. Similar to throwing overhand. My elbow leads to the back of my ear, my forearm lags behind, and I whip my hand down the throwing zone. So we want to make sure that that elbow is down. That's more important than the hand, but if the hand turns here and the elbow goes here, I lose my ability to have forearm fire. All that's going to happen here now is that my hand is going to lead to the back of the throw zone, and I'm going to push the ball. That's why palm up, elbow down is critical.
Yeah. So again, we'll kind of need some clarification, further details to fully answer that one. And his next question is regarding brush contact, and I could have a field day with this one. Basically, he's asking how much brush contact, brush interference is too much. And for those who are not familiar with what brush interference is, there are a lot of coaches who believe that in order to generate speed behind your pitch when you're doing internal rotation, that you essentially need to brush yourself on your hip when you deliver. We might get a lot of hate for this one, but I personally feel that that's a little bit ridiculous. We don't actively teach brush interference. That being said, I know that there are some pitchers out there who just structurally are built in some ways where they're constantly kind of just brushing up against themselves and it doesn't affect them at all, and that's fine. For me, I have had an alarming number of pitchers reach out to me, including one of my now best pitchers, Brianna, reach out to me saying, or asking, do you teach brush contact? And I always say, no, we don't actively teach that. And the first time, I'll never forget, Brianna's mom reached out to me. She said, do you teach brush contact? I said, no. And she said, good. And she sent me a picture of Brianna's arm. And it was one big black and blue bruise from her elbow to her forearm down to her wrist. And she said, we need your help. My daughter loves pitching but is considering quitting because she's in so much pain and her current pitching coach teaches her brush contact. So I took her on as a student, we fixed it, She's now one of the top ranked pitchers in the country for her class. Again, it is really important to keep your arm tight to your body. If you want to brush up against your shirt, that's okay. But also, physics tells us that if a moving object is going fast, in this case your arm, and it hits something, it's going to slow down. And you don't want to slow your arm down as a pitcher. So again, if you're a pitcher who kind of just has naturally always kind of lightly brushed her hip, it's not affecting you at all, it's not causing you any pain, fine, you do you. But I would say how much brush interference is too much. If it's causing you pain, if it's causing you bruising, if it's causing you swelling in your hands, I've seen a lot of that as well. And if it is visibly you feel like affecting your speed and command, I would say it's too much. And again, it's not something that we actively teach.
One of the things that brush contact can lead to, other than what Coach Jill just described beautifully about your arms moving down the back of the circle and about to hit the throw zone at 60 miles an hour, hopefully, and you brush. You smash up against your hip, then your hand is going to slow down. There's no question about it. The other thing that's problematic is my throw zone, which would be extended from my shoulders right here. If I'm looking to make sure that I brush contact, I'm learning that, then my hand should never, the throw zone should be like this. If I bent it into a circle, my throw zone should be right here on the frontal plane right in front of me. And my pitching hand and elbow should never leave that throw zone. See, I'm right next to my body here, but I'm not behind it. And one of the problems that can be created by assuming that you need to brush the side of your body is that your elbow comes from behind your body, and you need to make some kind of adjustment with your upper body while your hand is in the throw zone, thereby limiting your command in the strike zone. When you limit command, you reduce velocity.
Very true. But again, the biggest thing for me is bruising and pain. And just as a side note, Chris does say sometimes she gets bruising on her hip. So if you're doing anything in your pitching motion that is, one, causing you pain, aside from overuse injuries, which sadly so many pitchers go through, if you're doing anything in your pitching motion that is causing pain, bruising, redness, swelling, something's not right. Okay, so that was Chris's questions. Those are his 2 questions. Now we're going to move on to the rest. Next one says, my coach keeps telling me to stay tall, but I'm not exactly sure what that means. That's a really good question. So first of all, always feel like you can ask your coach questions if you need clarification. I feel like a lot of pitchers are scared to ask questions because they just want to assume that they know everything. And if your coach can't answer it, then that should be a little bit of a red flag as well. But staying tall basically means being vertically stacked. So as soon as you come out of the load position, which is the one position of the pitch where we're not vertically stacked, we're kind of here, we need hip extension to get nice and tall and vertically stacked. So being tall means everything is level and balanced. So your head is on top of your shoulders are on top of your hips, your knees are underneath your hips, nice and tall. So if you have an issue maybe where you come off the rubber like this and there's a lot of upper body lean, or you land in Power K and your hips are sticking out, those are not tall, vertically stacked positions. So if your coach is saying stay tall, he or she could be noticing that kind of postural issue and is just reminding you to keep your posture.
Sometimes coaches, who may not necessarily be pitching coaches, use the term stay tall for or to describe a couple of things. One of them we recently did a post on, which you can see on Fastpitch Power Instagram and YouTube, called frontside resistance. So when I land in Power K, this is Power K. Okay, I'm tall, and like Coach Jill said, vertically stacked. But my being tall, basically as tall as I can be. Okay, I'm 5'10". I'm 5'10" here. Okay, I'm not 5'10" here. I'm not 5'10" here. So I'm landing tall, and also my front side resistance is gone when I am not vertically stacked and balanced. This is an athletic position for just about any sport. This is where your delivery begins, Power K. So when you land in Power K, You should be vertically stacked and balanced, as tall as you can be, with really good front side resistance to be able to fire that ball and drive straight through.
Very important to be vertically stacked in any athletic movement, really, but especially pitching. So the next question is, how hard is it to transition from hello elbow to internal rotation? That's a really, I feel like, subjective question and kind of difficult to answer, honestly, because everyone's different. Some girls really pick it up very quickly, and other girls, it literally can take years. And one of the hardest things about transitioning from hello elbow to internal rotation is just understanding how to be relaxed, because hello elbow is a very stiff, tense motion. And especially if you're a pitcher who has done that for many, many, many years, that feeling of just being super loose and whippy can be really, really challenging. So what I would say on that is learn it as soon as possible. So if you're a very young pitcher, learn it from the start, or if you've already been taught hello elbow, stop immediately and start with internal rotation as soon as you can. But again, every pitcher is different. I've had girls pick it up literally instantaneously, and I've had other girls take years to really kind of finally feel that loose, relaxed whip.
And let's not get hung up in the term internal rotation or forearm fire. This is not some bizarre concept that we invented. And when you say learn it right away, every young developing pitcher who comes to me, us, doing hello elbow, is already, if they're a decent athlete, is already understanding and employing forearm fire. They're just doing it when they're throwing overhand. I showed it before. When I go to throw here is what the equivalent of hello elbow throwing overhand would look like. Who have you ever seen throw a ball overhand that way? Okay, where your hand comes back, your hand races forward, and when it gets here, collapses under your armpit. Elbow, you slow down, take a video of your young pitcher throwing overhand, like they just picked up a ball at shortstop and are throwing it to first base. This is what you're going to see when you do it frame by frame. Elbow leads, forearm lags, extend and whip. Elbow leads, forearm lags, extend and whip. When I show that to the young developing pitchers who come with hello elbow, they go, oh. And by the way, same thing hitting. Elbow leads, forearm lag, extension and whip down that hitting zone, powering that ball over the center field fence.
So the next question is how to use your hips when pitching and how to make the ball go faster. I'm going to answer the second part first. Speed, I mean, if you're looking for like one single drill that is going to make you throw faster, it doesn't exist. Speed comes from explosiveness off the rubber, loose, fast whip, and overall strength. So that's why strength training with a trainer is so important for pitchers, because you need to be able to build all those pitching muscle groups to be explosive and maintain your good posture and create good front side resistance while still being loose and fast in that whip. So I would say making sure you're working on whip drills all the time and the basics to work on good body positioning, and making sure that, you know, if you're at least 12 or 13 years old, getting with a good strength trainer. How to use your hips. I mean, that has a lot to do with physical strength as well. Coming off the rubber, you need to understand and have the strength of like how to engage your glutes and flexibility and the hip flexors. Core strength plays a huge role. But again, the hips themselves play a huge role in making the ball go faster, because the hips exploding off the rubber into the reach and then rotating through in power K play a big role in your speed and just overall mechanics in the pitch. If you're not using your hips correctly, your mechanics will break down, posture is off, arm path is off, you're not going to be able to whip correctly, so the use of the hips is really important.
I always love to use hitting as an example because it's universal, and everybody who's playing softball, you know, may not be a pitcher, not everybody, but almost everybody who's playing the game is a hitter. So if I'm at bat and I swing this way, notice what my hips did. Virtually nothing. If I'm at bat, my heel comes up and my heel comes down. When that heel comes down, I drive it into the ground. You can see a lot of Major League Baseball hitters do that now. You know, the foot up and foot down timing, the long stride timing. You very rarely see that now. It's economy of motion. So it's heel up. When that heel drives into the ground, hips go forward and whip. There's my hip whip right here. That enables me to add speed, bat head speed, as I drive that ball, hopefully over the center field fence, and I'm utilizing my lower body and round up, lower body, to create that hip whip that will also add whip to my arms and hands as I drive that ball. Same thing with pitching. When I get to the back of the throw zone and I begin my forearm fire and drive through, I'm going to have hip whip, but you'll notice my shoulders didn't go with it. That takes the whip away. Hip whip, fire and drive. Forearm fire, drive through, same speed, same time. And that hip whip is very important. Takes a while to learn, but it's really important to get that.
Next question is, how can I not open/turn my body while pitching? Well, at some point you do want to open your body as you're going from the reach to power K, but what I'm assuming you mean is into the reach. So what I'm guessing you mean is, instead of staying square as you come out, you're kind of starting to open too early. And if that's not what you mean, please feel free to leave us a comment. But that is actually probably these days the number one issue I see in pitchers. Video analyses, new students, everyone is opening too early. Everybody. And I don't know who's out there teaching it, but it's terrible because it creates a domino effect of issues throughout the remaining stage of the pitch. It creates issues with posture, arm path, drive through toe and knee positioning, your delivery. So it is a really big problem. So that's a good question. Again, a lot of it has to do with strength, being able to have the strength to extend those hips and drive off, straight out off the rubber. And we do have a lot of drills for that on Fastpitch Power Plus as well, but it's really just about kind of breaking down the stage of the pitch, doing some drills where you freeze in the reach position to work on that hip extension and seeing everything coming straight out instead of pulling everything open too soon.
If you go to Fastpitch Power, it doesn't even have to be Fastpitch Power Plus, although Fastpitch Power Plus is amazing. If you go to Fastpitch Power and you put in the search bar the 4 phases of the pitch, maybe called stages, I don't remember. 4 phases or 4 stages of the pitch. You're going to see that there are 4 stages of the pitch. The load, the reach phase, the track phase, which is what puts you into power K, and the fire and drive phase, which is the delivery from power K to the end of the throw zone. The reach phase is critical, because if you do not complete your reach phase, you're almost always going to open. When you open, your drive foot is going to turn and collapse. Your stride foot's going to go flying. Of course, my whole body's going this way, and it wants to go, everything wants to go with it. My glove hand may go swimming out. When that happens, I lose command of the strike zone. I lose velocity, because my throw zone has broken down before I even get an opportunity to start the delivery of the pitch. When I complete my reach phase, conversely, reach, now I track. When I see both hands cover my catcher's glove, that's when I track. Quickly, not soon. So opening too soon, as Coach Jill said, is going to lead to a domino effect that is going to create numerous mechanical breakdowns.
And something I like to tell my pitchers is to also focus on really pushing the hips forward towards the catcher. And also something that can help is focusing on the stride leg. So if you're a right-handed pitcher, your left knee coming straight out and up as you come off the rubber, because that can help kind of pull those hips forward and make sure everything is going straight. But again, we do have a lot of drills for that on Fastpitch Power Plus, and many, many times it is strength related. Lack of strength in the glutes, tightness in the hip flexors, lack of core strength can make it difficult to drive out before opening up. Also should be noted that a poor load position can contribute to opening too early. So if you have, too much space between your feet, if you're not pushing that front knee forward, if you're pre-tracking in your load, opening too early in your load and not staying square, that can all lead to opening too soon in the reach as well. So you might want to check out your load position as well. Next question, where do I start with my beginners? Whip, internal rotation, like that to me, along with just basic body positioning, is number one. I've seen a lot of pitchers, D1 collegiate pitchers, All-Americans, with very, very funky body mechanics, very weird things that we would not, teach, things that we would not recommend pitchers do. And the reason that they are successful is because they have really good fast whip. And that should tell you that how important that loose fast whip is. So again, on Fastpitch Power Plus, I have an entire section called forearm fire and whip drills, and I have them in order of the way they should be performed. But that is the first thing that I feel pitchers need to understand, is how to release the ball in a loose way, the timing of the release, at the exact moment that your wrist is supposed to snap, when it snaps, where it takes place, the feeling of the palm up, elbow down lead, the relaxed hand firing out. That is of critical importance to me. And a lot of those whip drills themselves do also work on body positioning as well. And we also do have on our website, if you're looking for like a full understanding of the mechanics and like how to teach them and the set of drills to go through to develop your beginners, we do have the online coaches clinic as well on our website.
Probably our biggest challenge as instructors is the fact that, most of our students start when they're like 9 years old, 10 years old. So think about it. You got a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, and, not meaning to insult any of you parents out there, but some of you guys have unreasonable expectations. You see some kid out there who may be 12, 13, 14 years old, maybe even less, throwing the ball faster than your child. You want, why isn't my daughter throwing the ball that fast? I once did a post called, you want more velocity? Hurry up and wait. So there is a chronological development. We can you come and have lessons from us 3, 4, 5 times a week as a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old. But there is no pill or no number of lessons that you can take to go from being 10 years old to 11, or 11 to 12, or 12 to 13. It takes 365 days to pass. The neuromuscular connections become more mature as the child ages. Their ability to understand and translate what you're saying into consistent body movement becomes much, much greater the older they get. And you would never hear us recommend that your 9 or 10-year-old go into a gym with a trainer and start doing Olympic powerlifting. So their strength and conditioning, they may be pitching even at a travel level or a tournament level for 3 years before they get in a gym to start preparing their body to perform these movements consistently and aggressively. So be realistic in your expectations. It takes time. And those dedicated pitchers, the ones who ask the most questions, even of us, their coaches, are the ones who are going to be the most successful.
But if you want like a solid place to start with your beginner pitchers, I would focus on the whip and the release first, and then kind of move on to basic body positioning from there. Next question is drills for staying back, not leaning back. So again, we have a lot of these on Fastpitch Power Plus. A lot of that, again, as I've said for many things, can also be strength related. I've noticed that a lot of pitchers who tend to dip back instead of stay back generally have some core weakness going on. So that is something to consider as well. Honestly, one of my favorite really basic ones is if you have like a long PVC pipe, and like one that touches the ground, so it would have to vary depending on the height of your pitcher. Hold it. And you just get them into like a power K position. They hold that stick out in front of them. Again, it should be touching the ground. And you just have them work on delivering, and you don't want that stick to move forward. You don't want it to lift off the ground if they're dipping back. That's one of my very simple on Fastpitch Power Plus. It's called the stick drill for staying, literally called the stick drill for staying back. That's one of the ones that I like to do.
That's an excellent drill. because what it teaches you immediately is front side resistance without even, saying this is front side resistance. If you see that stick in front of you and you don't want it going back here, you don't want it going back here, then you're automatically developing front side resistance and the ability to fire your pitching hand past that firm front side, increasing velocity and command.
Good drill. Lots of those. We have lots of other ones on Fastpitch Power Plus too. Next question, 2 more, I promise. Next question, do college pitchers throw fastballs often? Yes. Yes, they do. Especially, if you think of the Montana Foutses in the world who are throwing in that 70 plus mile an hour range. Certainly, I bet if you asked any single one of them. I remember an interview with Montana Fouts, I think when she was a freshman, and the interviewer said, did you throw fastballs? And she said, I think during the Women's College World Series, I threw 80% fastballs. When you're at that speed, if you're in college, if you're playing in a D1 college and you're throwing in the mid to upper 50s, you might be considered more of a spin pitcher. I personally think you could still throw a well-placed fastball at that speed, but you might be more of a spin pitcher. But once you approach like the mid to upper 60s and beyond, certainly I think a lot of those pitchers are throwing fastballs. You're not going to see a fastball down the middle of the plate. Probably not. Hopefully. You might by mistake. But certainly there are a lot of college pitchers, and MLB pitchers for that matter, throwing well-placed, spotted fastballs.
That question drives me crazy because there are so many coaches out there, not necessarily college coaches if they know what they're doing, but travel coaches, high school coaches, you won't throw a fastball once you get to college. That's nonsense.
Yeah, that's bad.
There are pitchers who learn how to throw the ball fast, and there are pitchers who learn how to pitch a fastball. To have some coach tell you, some softball coach tell you, you're not going to throw fastballs, that's absurd. If you learn how to pitch a fastball, which is what we teach, how to pitch a fastball, how to spot it, where to locate it, when, how the batter is built. Are they tall? Are they short? Where are they standing in the batter's box? That batter will tell you where they want the pitch, where they don't want the pitch. And a really great, well-located fastball will set up so many of your other pitches that to not throw them would be a crime.
And I know where you want to go with that question. If maybe your pitcher is more of a spin pitcher and you're like, well, maybe we can just ignore the fastball. All of the mechanics for the other pitches are built off of the fastball mechanics. So you don't want to just skip over the fastball and go to everything else, because everything else is going to be off as well. All right, last question. What age do you like to start band work? Might need some clarification on this one. I don't know if you mean band work as in pre-game warm-up arm care band work, or if you mean band work for strength training, or if you mean band work when I put resistance bands around my girls' knees for pitching drills. I'm going to assume that you mean the pitching drills one, since this is kind of a pitching Q&A. So if you followed me on Instagram, you'll see that sometimes I do drills with pitchers. Mostly I do them to work on just building strength in the lessons and having them work on coming straight off the rubber, and I'll put resistance bands around their knees. I would say that if you have a pretty strong pitcher, because a lot of bands can be used for basic mechanics as well, so I would say 12, maybe 12, or if you have a pretty advanced pitcher at that age, maybe she's been pitching for several years. If you have a brand new pitcher at age 12, I would say no. But if they've been pitching for a couple years, they kind of have the basic mechanics down, or they need help specifically with feeling the toe and knee forward position or coming straight off the rubber, I would say 12. Younger than that, you kind of want to just focus more on basic things and not so much adding resistance bands, unless your coach, unless she's very advanced for her age and her coach thinks that she might be ready for that sort of thing. If that's not what you're asking about, please feel free to leave us a comment, because I'm not sure what other kind of band work you would be asking about. All right, so those were all of our questions. This was a pretty long post, but I hope we got to answering them all, and we answered them all to your liking. And we'll try to do these at least once a month. And thanks for joining us.